You know, there are a lot of fiberglass rods on the market today, but there's only one true S-glass rod, and that's the Seeker S-glass fiberglass rod. And what the difference in S-glass and regular fiberglass is these rods, the S-glass rods are a lot better balanced, and they're so much lighter. You know, your regular glass rods, that most of those rods will sell for 85 to 90 bucks. Those rods are great rods, but they're heavier and they're not balanced like a Seeker rod. Most of those rods are going to weigh around 9 ounces. Our rod, the S-glass rod, weighs a mere 5 ounces, and it's so comfortable to fish with. Once you fish with these rods, you're going to find yourself not wanting to pick another one up. I'll tell you now, and it's just like eating Fritos or Cheetos or something like that. If you eat one of them, you're going to have some more of them. These rods are absolutely fabulous, folks. In 1974, when I won the Bassmasters Classic, I was actually using a fiberglass rod. We even knew back then in 1974 that fiberglass was really the best rod, the best material to use for reaction type baits like spinner baits, buzz baits, crank baits, top waters, all sorts of moving baits. But you know, the fiberglass rods that we used years ago were real heavy and cumbersome, and they weren't very much fun to fish with. They were just actually unbalanced and just too heavy. But the properties of a fiberglass rod were exactly perfect for reaction baits. So as time went on in our industry, companies started building what we call the composite rods, and they convinced us through marketing that these rods were every bit as good as fiberglass. And you know, I like composite rods, but there's nothing that's as good as a fiberglass rod. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I got acquainted with a man by the name of Bobby Feazell, who is a custom rod builder. And Bobby was using Seeker blanks to build rods. And once I got my hands on one of those Seeker blanks, for fishing crankbaits and topwater and jerk baits, any type of moving bait, it's absolutely just the best rod there is. I just fell in love with the rod. It's so comfortable. You enjoy going out there every day making those casts and hooking those fish. And you know, the fiberglass properties of that rod actually allow the bass to get a better hold of the lure when they come up and attack it. They get it deeper in their mouth, which gives you a better chance of getting a better hookup with them. And then when you're fighting the fish, you cannot physically overpower the fish because the rod just flexes and bends so much, and you have to play him. You have to actually play him and spend some time getting that fish in. But I definitely lose fewer fish with fiberglass than any other rod I've ever used. They're just a pleasure to fish with. Well, the reason you can land more fish with a fiberglass rod is the properties of this rod. Like I said, when you're working that bait through the water and you're moving it, and the bass comes up and takes the lure, the fiberglass rod just flexes and bends. It doesn't kick back like graphite. When a bass takes your bait using a graphite rod and you're retrieving it, that rod tends to kick back and take the bait away from the bass. Fiberglass doesn't do that. It just flexes a little bit more and allows that bass to get that bait deeper in his mouth. And when he does that, you get a better hookup. You're going to hook him better. And then in playing the fish, there again, it's real flexible, has a lot of bow to it. This rod will not allow you to overpower a fish. You can't fight him too hard, and you've got to play him to get him in, and it allows you to land a much higher percentage of the fish that you hook. This is a 7-foot, 2-inch cranking rod that I designed this rod myself for crankbait fishing. It's perfect. The action of it is perfect for small crankbaits like the 1/4 ounce up to about 1/2 ounce size. Square bill, this is a perfect square bill rod. You know, square bill have become such a huge part of our bass fishing in tournaments this day and time. I can't tell you how many good finishes I've had in the last 2 or 3 years with square bill crankbaits, and this rod is perfect for that. You know, you'd think with the treble hooks, most fishermen think with treble hooks that don't know better, that the treble hooks actually give you a better chance of landing the fish, but that's not so. The trebles are so much easier for a bass to throw. Once they jump and they start pulling and fighting, they can throw this treble hook a lot quicker if your rod is not perfectly fit for what you're doing. And when I say perfectly fit, I mean the action has to be just right. And that's what we've done with this 7'2" model. It flexes and bends, and it allows you to play that fish. You don't ever overpower him. You can't physically overpower the fish because the rod won't let you. And that's what you want in a good cranking rod, something where you just have to play that fish and take your time. But I have landed, just as an example, at Table Rock this year, we were fishing a Bass Open down there. and I finished 5th place in that tournament. I caught 42 keepers in 3 days. And out of 42 keeper fish using this particular rod with a square bill crankbait, I lost 1 fish. And you know, that is a great percentage. When you only lose 1 fish per tournament, you've done well, buddy. You've done extremely well. And when you're catching that many fish, you know, the norm is to lose. If you caught 40 fish, the norm would be to lose 6 or 7 of those. But with a fiberglass rod, it just helps you so much more, land so many more of those fish. My percentage is real high. The other day, I was fishing at Wheeler Lake, another example, and in 3 days of fishing, I caught around 40 fish again. Keepers. These are all keepers, fish that I culled with and so forth, and I lost 1 fish in that tournament. So fiberglass is the ultimate rod for crankbait fishing and all sorts of reaction baits. Whether you're using a big spinner bait like this, any bait that moves through the water fairly fast, or topwater, like the Zara Spook. That's an old favorite of all of, you know, people that fish a lot are always going to use a spook or a chug bug or your Yellow Magics and things like this. The fiberglass rods will just allow you to land a much higher percentage of the strikes that you get.